He whispered in my ear and he pulled me oh so close.
I just finished my morning meditation. It almost feels weird to say that I feel accomplished with my meditation, even though I know I have a long way to go. But what makes me feel accomplished about my meditation is that I'm actually incorporating meditation in my everyday lifestyle. And that even though it took me 4 years to actually build this habit, it's becoming more relevant in my life now. I guess that in itself feels like a really big accomplishment. I thought today would be a great day to take you guys throughout my day. Let's see where the day brings us.
Your apartment has a glow I can't remember. Try as hard as I can, but nothing comes to mind. Me and Lucas falling over sideways. It's so easy to forget.
Matcha lattes have become a ritual for me. I usually just use a blender since this way is the fastest way for me and it really gets my drink super foamy. I use one of my favorite matchas, which is Ippudo. I hope I'm saying that right. This is what I am using in the video and it is hands down one of the best matchas I have ever tried. I'm gonna have it linked down below for you guys, but if you're a matcha fan like myself, this is so good. It's definitely worth a shot. I love having a glass of this every single morning instead of a meal, since I usually don't get hungry until probably around the afternoon, and it really helps me focus on whatever I work on that day. I took a break from filming after I did my morning routine. I was feeling very uncomfortable and this has been kind of ongoing. Of course, it didn't just hit me. I know it was more of a build-up thing, started very small. Now it's becoming more conscious to me that I'm feeling uncomfortable. And I didn't understand really why I was feeling uncomfortable. Yesterday, I was just feeling down and I couldn't go forward with my day. Even having a really good day with my friend, we hung out outside of the park, we did yoga, had breakfast, we played a really good game of Cards of Humanity and just got to know each other better, so that was really nice. But at the end of it, I was feeling somewhat like anxious and I couldn't figure out why I was feeling anxious because I was like, I had a great morning, I was active, I meditated in the morning. That anxiousness and that overwhelming feeling that I had after hanging out with her, it just grew throughout the afternoon. And I was like, you know, it has nothing to do with the person that I hung out with, but everything to do with what I was going through internally. I did like my usual questionnaires where I break down what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, what I've learned from it, stuff like that. I thought I resolved it, but I resolved it at that moment. A similar feeling arose this morning, and I think I told you guys that in the beginning of this vlog. Again, I whipped out my notebook. I always have to have a notebook. I have a bunch of notebooks in my room because I write down everything. Through writing things down, I can kind of like work through not being so overwhelmed with my thoughts, feelings, things I have to do, responsibilities. I feel so much better after breaking down what I'm experiencing because it can really be overwhelming. For me, there's a lot of things that need to be organized, mainly because I know that I think of things very deeply and it can fall into overanalysis where I take a thought and I think about it for too long and I over dissect it to a point where it really brings me down into a spiral and I can't go forward with my day. Sometimes I can last in this like deep, low energy for a couple of days. I'd really like to take you through my thought process because this process works amazing for me. Whatever emotion I'm going through and I can't figure it out, I always ask myself, what am I experiencing? So that could be from emotions to thoughts. This is basically what I was just working on from the last clip that you saw. I wrote down that I'm going through a lot of change right now. There's a shift in my life and that makes me feel very uncomfortable. And so that discomfort leads to a lot of anxiousness, a lot of overwhelming, uneasy feeling. Another thing that I wrote down is that I quit my old job and I'm in between an old job to a new job, and that is very new. That's very uncomfortable for me because in this new job, even though I'm in it, my skill set for this job hasn't developed yet, and so I haven't found a purpose in this new job. I'm also not earning money right now, which I'm like, okay, because I just quit my old job and I'm not in a new job and I don't have a purpose and I'm not earning money, like that's very uncomfortable for me, especially for someone who loves to be self-sufficient and independent. I'm someone who likes to depend on myself for everything, whether that's figuring out my own problems, because I personally believe that we have a lot of answers within ourselves. So I like to look within myself first, because most of the time, whatever I'm going through, I have the answer for it. Going from an old job to a new job and not having those things, a structure within my career, I feel lost. I feel like I'm still finding my way, which I know that is something that's okay to be lost or to feel lost. Another thing that I'm experiencing is this new person that I'm developing into. I am shifting into this person that is so new. It's a really beautiful experience and I love this part of me. And I love who I'm becoming, but there's also this uncomfortable feeling that I'm letting go so much of my old self, and that's like, oh my gosh, this is a new experience, and I don't even recognize my old self anymore. I'm like, I don't even know her. Who is that? It's a beautiful experience, but also looking at it from like a macro perspective, I'm like, whoa, that is a huge shift. So I highlighted a few words that I wrote down that I recognized that is pretty repetitive in my writing, is the word new. There's a lot of new things going right now in my life. Just like discovering and like strengthening this internal part of me, a new job, building a new routine around all of this newness, because I definitely thrive in structure. I think most of us thrive in structure. That's pretty relatable to the general population. We are creatures of habit. Because there's so many new things, it almost feels like I'm lost. So that's another word that comes through to me. So yeah, there's just a lot of emotions that I finally have kind of put in their place. I'm like, okay, that's what's going on. And so after asking myself what I'm experiencing and dissecting what it is I'm thinking and feeling, I ask myself, how can I distance myself from these negative thoughts and emotions? Two things really came through for me. Is one is to just trust the process. And I know by saying just trust the process, it kind of gives off like the, oh, just trust it, it's easy, but it's really not. At least for me right now, trusting is a hard thing to do because you really let go of control. I just kind of have to trust that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to, because I definitely believe that things work out the way that they're meant to. Another thing that I wrote down, I only wrote down two things. So the second one is to focus on building a new routine. Because I don't have my routine down from all these new things I'm experiencing, I don't feel like I have a structure yet. It takes time and I have to understand that. It's funny because sometimes when we feel or think so many things all at once, we overcomplicate it, which is so normal. Finding the resolution to it kind of helps me stabilize those thoughts and emotions. So I wrote down a little conclusion here. It's really to just take in all of this newness, to trust the process, and to focus on building and creating this new structure and this new routine. Focusing on molding this new routine for me, I wrote down, will give me the structure that I need to no longer feel anxious, to no longer feel unsettled, and to no longer feel lost, because the word lost perfectly described what I was feeling. Having this structure that I've created for myself and dissecting these, whatever I was experiencing, really helps put my mind and myself overall at ease. I thought I resolved an issue yesterday that I thought I was going to be good for at least a while, and waking up this morning, not even 24 hours later, not even 12 hours later, I was feeling similar emotions, and it's just like some of those emotions that were not resolved that I thought I resolved. It just shows me that life is constant work. There will be things that you have to keep resolving on a daily basis, and that can take a lot of effort. And even though you just do internal growth for a day, I hope you know that that's a really valuable thing, and that is a very strong thing to do, because self-mastery, in my opinion, is extremely powerful. And so I hope that if you went through something recently, or if you're going through something now and you just recently resolved it, I hope you give yourself a big round of applause for that, because not everyone has the power or the courage to face whatever they're going through and find a resolution for that. Now that I've just ranted for maybe a whole 50 minutes, I'm feeling so much better. I was in a bit of a rut this morning. I was feeling so lost. Like, I was like, oh, which direction do I go? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, structure is lost. I'm gonna do some editing. I'm probably gonna get some food.
It was late at night. You tossed and turned as thoughts began to play. How can this be life? Every day I would just waste away, saving up the time to spend it all on mindless entertainment, as if we'd find some sort of reason behind this need to survive. We could be right, or we could be wrong together. When daffodil skies, they bloom in the darkest weather. Make up
Have you guys ever seen a whole fish? A whole fried fish? A whole